Dr. Dex here. Today we are prepping our newest job site. Welcome. Thank you for following along. I really appreciate it. If you like what you see today, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click that bell icon to be notified when we're putting out new content. Okay, so we have been digging our holes. Last week was a really wet and nasty week, so we didn't work as much here as we thought we would. But now we just had our footing inspection. Inspector just approved that. So basically, this is an overhead view of what we're building. And we have 7 footings. They're 2 foot by 2 foot by basically 2 foot deep. So we're just finishing cleaning those out. We're gonna put some rebar cages in them. So that's the down view. And I was running out of printer ink. My prints aren't very crisp, but basically that's looking from the front view, which is this way. My roof line doesn't look the same as the house. And then here's a side view. We're using hog wire railing, 6x6 posts, 6x12 pressure treated glue lams for beams, and then 2x10 pressure treated joists. So that's basically our build. This is some flashing details. It's not really to scale or anything, but just this is a set of plans that we have to give when we pull a building permit. And that's why building permits are kind of spendy, because we have to take the time to do all the drawings, to scale the deck, to share the loading with the county or the city jurisdiction, wherever we're pulling our permit from. I also had these plans engineered, so my engineer went through and checked all my calculations. He came back to me and said, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. I redraw or make amendments to my plans, resend them, he approves them, then I submit for a building permit. That takes about 30 days usually to get pushed through, sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little less, depending on how busy the building department is. Normally we would be pouring concrete today. I didn't expect the inspector to be here so soon, which is great, but somebody forgot the cement mixer. So even if I went and got cement, I'd either have to go rent a mixer or buy one. I don't know if it'd be worth leaving the job site for. So I think what we're gonna do today is get all the ledgers off the house and start prepping the house to build, and then we'll pour first thing in the morning and then start building it on Wednesday. So anyway, follow along and see what you think.
As you can see, they're pretty big holes, not a little bit larger than what we usually do. And these last two had huge rocks in them, so it seems to be a thing with lake taps. There's lots of rocks in the holes. But anyway, this guy's almost done, and then we're gonna put our rebar cages in here and pour concrete tomorrow.
All right, so what I'm doing right now is I've got this rebar tire and I'm making some rebar cages. It was required by our engineer. And what rebar does, and this is stuff called carbon bar with a K. It's carbon fiber rebar, and it's very similar to the price of steel rebar, but it's not messy, like it doesn't rust. It's super light and it's easy to cut. We cut it on a chop saw. I had to make 6 cuts to make on my chop saw to make 42 pieces. And I'm just making some little cages for our footings. We already have our footing inspection, so that's ready to go. But the engineer just called for 3 pieces of rebar each direction. So that's what I'm doing right now. And these don't have to be square. It doesn't really matter, but it's amazing how much more load capacity these footings will have when you put this in the bottom 3 inches of the hole. It's kind of mind-numbing, staggering difference. So we just got to make 7 of these. These little things, these little concrete things, these are called dobies. And what dobies do is they hold the rebar 3 inches up from the bottom of the hole, because when you're pouring, the inspector wants to make sure that the rebar is not sitting at the very bottom of the hole. It has to be 3 inches up in the concrete. So this is just a quick and dirty way to make sure. Now normally, sometimes I just pour a couple wheelbarrows of concrete in the hole and then throw my rebar in. But for footing inspection, Most inspectors will want to see this in the hole with 3 inches of gap between the sidewall of the hole and here, and they want 3 inches up. So that's what the correct way to put a piece of rebar in. We don't have to do any bent cages. We don't have to put anything shooting up through it. This little piece of rebar cage will double the strength of our footing. That water will be gone by tomorrow, but if it's not, we'll have to pump it out. All right, so one of the most important parts of a deck is the ledger. Now there's still an existing ledger. The homeowner, to save some money, he tore the deck down himself and unfortunately left the ledger for us to take down, and it's taking us much longer to do that than it usually does to tear down a ledger board. Whoever did these was very thorough, and there's a mix of bolts on some and nails on others, and there's nails through flashing, and there's just all kinds of stuff holding us back. So sometimes it is what it is, but I'll probably have to go back and renegotiate this because we're gonna have 6 to 8 hours just to rip the ledgers off the house. But we got to do it carefully, because if you just rip these things off any old way, you're gonna destroy the siding. And this is all clear cedar siding, and it's thick, so it's gonna be hard to source, hard to find, and expensive to replace, which would actually end up costing me more. So take your time when you're taking down your ledger boards. So the first one took us an hour. They're just being really finicky. So is what it is. Hey guys, drdecks here. Today we have finished cleaning up the side of the house, and we're gonna start installing some ledger boards, which is one of the most important parts of installing your deck frame. All right, so the side of the house is completely cleaned up. That took us about 8 hours of work to strip all the old ledgers, get everything taken off, try to remove as much siding as possible without breaking it. We still broke a bunch, but we G-taped the side of the house because basically they had house wrap on the side of the house, but every time they put a nail through the house wrap, it created a leak, and there was evidence of that on the exposed areas. Once we pulled the house wrap off, you could see where water was leaking in through the nail holes. So what we did is we put G-tape up, which is a waterproof membrane tape, so it seals every fastener that goes in through it. So it's like a waterproof membrane tape. So kind of a cool step that we do on every deck. It doesn't matter, we're waterproofing this deck, does not matter. We're still putting G-tape up no matter what, so that it can stay as dry, and as if there is a leak or something, water, moisture, whatever gets behind the ledger, that it still keeps the house dry. So now that that's done, we're gonna rearrange our job site a little bit. I'm gonna move this lumber with a machine, and we're gonna set up our cut hub and kind of get things ready for shop, so that like every time we need to make cuts, we can just do so. So that's what we're doing right now. That'll take us, you know, a good 30, 40 minutes, and then we'll get ready, and then we'll start hanging those ledger boards.
Setting up the cut hub today. I had already set it up last week, but that was a little preemptive of me because I put it right here, and we're trying to move our bobcat around here, and we had a mixed concrete here, so tore it down. Decided to put it over here. It's just a little bit of a weird slope. So with the cut hub, it's pretty quick to install. Just takes a minute to level it out. You know, it's fairly close, but then when you put a piece of 2x4 or 2x12, whatever, you don't want it sitting on this and then bumping into the base of your saw or whatever. So just tinkering with that, making sure it's nice and flat so it's nice and easy to put our table saw over here and rip things and cut things and whatever. So a little bit of prep before we install our ledgers. Oh, that was pretty good.
All right, this is a Stabila LAR350, and this is a really sweet laser. This is how we justify elevation of the house to make sure our floor is not tilted too bad. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fire this thing up, let it do its thing, and then I have a receiver right here. We've actually done a video on this, so go back in our archive to Stabila LAR350, and you'll see a review that we did on it. But it's blinking, now it's blinking white, so this thing's ready to go. It's shooting a level line across the entire house. So what I want to know is basically all my corners. Wherever there's a corner on this deck, I want to see how well the old deck was as far as level. Usually they're not that accurate. I'm going to measure from the corner there, these 3 corners up here, and then the far corner over there, and see if I can't pick a height that I want to put my ledger board at, because that's the next step. Now that we have all of our old ledgers off and the house is cleaned up and everything's G-taped all the way around, now it's time to put the new ledgers on. And it's noon now, so it'll take us probably the rest of the day to get all those done and put together, and possibly layouts if I'm lucky. But and then tomorrow we'll start setting some posts and beams for the deck. How much lower are we than the corner? all right, I'm gonna do it. And a receiver. What is that? Is that ultralight? All right, so we're using this receiver and the stick to figure out elevation of the deck and where we're gonna put our ledger board, which is really important measurement. So we're just getting to that point right now. When this starts to make that noise, we're close, and then I just have to adjust the height until I get a straight line like that. And that's where our laser is, and that's level, and then we measure down to that line, and that's where we put our mark. Quiet, quiet. And then, and that's how we justify the elevation. That way, once we have our ledgers up, and I know the entire ledger is level, I can use the laser again to cut all my post heights to height, which is gonna be really nice. I won't have to guess. We won't have to run a bunch of lumber out from the house or anything like that. I'll just know, hey, we're at this height, we're good to go. Once I got this thing to beep right, then we measured up a certain distance and we marked the G-tape where our ledger needs to go. And then we'll go back and we'll chalk all those lines. And then that's exactly the height we need to put our ledgers at. But what we could do is let's chalk all these lines in, and then let's mark the rest of the house out and get those chalked. And then we'll leave the scaffolding where it is, and we'll start by installing those ledgers first.
Okay.
And then we'll just start working our way around the house. Our friends at Simpson Strong Tie swung by today, and they dropped off some really cool products. These concealed flange brackets are hot, and they're in black, which I really like. The cool part is you use a structural screw and this washer that gives it like a really massive bolt look, and they just fit right over the top of these oversized holes on the side of the bracket, and then you install these structural screws in like this, and those go into the beam like so. So pretty trick way to install a beam. A really cool look. I'm into black hardware, so we're getting more into it. So they dropped us off some stuff for us to check out and test, and we're gonna check it out on this deck. So we have one beam bracket, then we have some brackets for our concrete as well that we're gonna try out. So we're excited for those. It's just a little bit nicer look, a little bit more streamlined, and they brought us some other products as well, and we'll kind of show you those as we're into our build. Hey guys, Dr. Decks here. Today we are running joist and we're framing up this deck. All our beams and posts are set in place. So I'm doing layout on the beams. The guys are starting to run some joists, and they're also doing some pressure blocking and adding brackets as needed. Hey guys, wanted to introduce you to the newest member of our team. His name is Austin. Hello,
AKA,
Austin.
How you doing? AKA Deck Wiz.
Yep. If you go onto our Instagram page, you can follow him at DECKWIZZ. And Austin came all the way from Delaware to come work for us. So moved basically across the country, and now he's here building decks with us, and we're proud to have him. We're happy to have him here, and everything's so far so good. So just keep an eye out for Austin. Anyways, we'd like to give Austin a warm welcome. Don't forget to comment and subscribe below. No, don't forget. Don't forget to leave your comments below. Okay, so you're gonna cut a 45 on it like these. So last week we were able to run most of these joists over here, and now we're starting to work around the house. And so I have been working on the layout for that, and I have that all figured out up to around the other side of the house. So Nazi is actually putting in some blocking for over the top of the beam, and Austin is cutting some boards to length that I need done so I can start adding these joists in, and I have a little bit more layout to do around the far corner and then the last part of this deck. So that's hopefully what we're gonna get done today, is all the joists set, and then we will start continue blocking and adding support wherever we need it to sturdy this thing up, and then we have some V-bracing underneath the deck to do as well. So that's just the next part of how we're gonna get this deck framed and get it ready for our waterproof bladder.
Here I come.
On this week's painting with your bro.
Oh, you're gonna make me do it.
I'm just making little happy little cuts here. If you haven't heard, we use Q-Tech. Because as you can see, this little dark area here is where, oh yeah, this is pressure treated incised. Put the volume up. Anyway, what it is these punctures here are where the treatment is shot through. But as you can see, it only goes in like a 1/4 inch. So when you cut a piece of lumber, this is all exposed and open to rot and this and that. So we take Q-Tech out of Australia, and it's a stain protectant. Essentially is the same thing as what these chemicals are. So every time we make a cut, just cover it up with Q-Tech. That way we're making sure our framing lasts almost as long as our decking. We'll see though. Check back in 50, 60 years when I'm dead.
What's up, man? What's up?
You're from Delaware?
Yeah, Newark, Delaware. Good old board, Delaware.
What's in Delaware?
Christiana Mall, Rehoboth Beach. Not too much goes on in Delaware. It's a small state. Everybody knows each other. So making this move out here was pretty big for me.
Yeah.
A lot of people are proud of me.
Do you know the population of Delaware?
I wasn't that good in history class. I wish I did though. I think it's maybe in the 500,000s maybe.
Oh, so as big as Tacoma, basically.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe a little more.
Yeah.
What did you do before this?
Multiple jobs, but my most recent was I was a business owner. Basically general construction. Did a little bit of everything.
Inside houses, outside?
Outside, inside, but recently I've been doing a lot of fences. And then bathroom, kitchen remodels. This is what I love doing. I only got 1 or 2 of these before in my lifetime, so I knew when I got this call, this was something I would love doing.
How long were you doing that for?
About 1.5 years, and before that I was working for a solar technician, a warehouse, trying college out, just going back and forth with things.
And how old are you?
I'm 25, just turned 25, September 22nd.
Nice.
So wish me some happy birthdays.
You better. In the comments. Right now, stop the video and wish him a happy birthday late. Favorite favorite kind of pizza?
I would say pepperoni, keep it classic.
Sure. What other kinds of foods do you like?
I gotta go with my fiance makes. She makes a mean chicken stir fry. Put some broccoli and carrots in there, some teriyaki sauce, that's my favorite.
Is Delaware like I don't know how to describe it. Like, you know how the South is like known for cooking seafood?
Yeah, a lot of people like crabs out there. A lot of people like striped bass. Yeah, fresh fish. That's what my brother likes. I know he likes that. To be honest, I never had crabs though. I'm more of a chicken tenders, french fries guy. Very classic.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
He's never had crab.
What? I mean, are you interested in trying it, or?
Yeah, I'll try it.
Yeah, you won't regret it.
I heard the cleaning part's the hard part.
Well, we don't do that.
Okay, see, there we go. Then I'm all in.
Yeah.
I'm all
We don't
in.
do it like that. You can roll it over.
Is that how you like it better, or?
Well, just as safer, probably. Okay.
Block man in his natural element. We got blocks here. Measured them out. Had deck whiz cut these guys out. We had to cut them. I had to rip it 2x10 to make it into a 2x4 because this deck is being waterproofed, and we're using our EPDM bladder. The bladder, when it goes in between the joists, it kind of sits like a U shape like this, so you don't want to block up too high, constricting the flow. So I ripped these down so that way they'll sit right on top of these, hopefully. And yeah, block tricks. So I like to have one nail in first, kind of anchor this guy in, and then also hit it with a hammer, so that way I can go back here. And sometimes these joist hangers are a little, I don't know, they need to be beaten into submission, so it's always important to get the bottom of the joist hanger tight with our joist, because otherwise it serves no purpose. And then that way, once I got this anchored, I can go to the other side, hit the other prong in, and then I'm ready to blam away. So you can see how this works.
Got it.
Is that good right there to meet now?
I can live with it. Like, get some verbiage out of my mouth sometimes that we need to just stop. Calvin. Hey guys, drdecks here. Today we're cutting out our waterproof bladder system, and what we're doing is we're using an entire roll of EPDM pond liner, which is right here, and we've been cutting out various parts for our current deck build. We have a list right here of all the sizes we needed, and we've knocked out everything except for our baffles, which we're cutting right now. And then once we have all those parts together, we'll be taking all that back up to our job site, and we're gonna finish framing a little bit, and then we will start installing our waterproof bladder. So let's check this out.
Any science behind this?
Not really, you know, it's just a fish pond liner cut into special shapes, and then we're going to install it on the tops of our framing. I don't know if we'll get to that today. Hopefully we get a few bays installed today, and then tomorrow most of that will go down, and then Friday it's going to start raining, so we hope to have most of this taped up as well, but we'll see how it goes. I'm not sure. All right, so we have everything we need for our waterproof bladder. We've cut some extra parts that we'll take with us just in case something happens and we make a mistake or something like that. And now we're ready to head back up to the job site. So that's what we're gonna do right now, and we'll see you in a minute. All right, we're back at the job site, and we're gonna get started by finishing up some framing that we have to do. And then after that, we're gonna get started on the bladder.
Your favorite thing? Just doing some more blocking. Anyway, I got all our beam blocking in, and what this guy is doing is just acting as a support. We've got a straight block in here, and then this guy's just gonna sandwich right next to it and act as extra support for our corners. And then got the mid-span blocking done, and then I think the guys are gonna block down the middle, and then I might block on the little short span we have on the side of the house. Just doing what I do best, blocking.
Speak up.
When we installed these joists, they looked, they look kind of straight. We were looking mainly for crown up, so they're all crowned up. One of them though, one more like two of them, are really snake-like, like a serpent, you know? There's snakes in here somewhere. Anyway, so what I'm trying to do here is straighten them out. So I'm taking this piece of 2x6, anchoring it to the outside two joists, because those ones are actually pretty straight. So then I'm using a clamp to clamp in my second joist to the measurement that it is at the beam. And then that way, by anchoring these guys all in together, I can put my blocking in and not really have to like really reef on it. So we'll see how this works. I think I'm gonna put blocking in. We're gonna come back with some V-bracing in too. And so it's gonna be pretty stout. Like this. I can't do it, yeah. It's too, not one-handed.
I know you've seen this before, but we use a product called Q-Tech Extreme as an end cut solution on all of our cuts. So if it's a rip or a cut, doesn't matter if it's jigsaw or whatever, we always treat all exposed ends with Q-Tech before assembly. It takes a little bit more time, but it keeps the wood preserved, it keeps bugs out of it, termites, and it soaks in deeper than any other stain that we found, or end grain solution for that matter. Come on down here with that drill. Okay, so hopefully this fits. I'm gonna repeat myself because he just put this on camera. So I'm gonna go sighted in. So you know what you could do is you could put a temporary brace in where that board is bowing out a little bit. And because this other joist has just got an ever so slight bow this way, you can just put a clamp in there, open it up, put your temporary brace in, and then bust the clamp off, and then that can just stay that way until we get all our deck board screwed in, and then you'll be money. Cash money. I mean cash.
I'm sure you heard of G-tape.
Hey guys, Dr. Decks here. Today we are trying to finish up our waterproof bladder. We got a good jump on it yesterday and we're getting some of the final parts of it done. There's a couple spots we won't be able to finish until we get some decking laid up to a certain point. So follow along and see how far we get, but our goal today is to kind of have this deck area dried in, and it's supposed to really start raining this weekend. So hopefully we get some tape up before the rains come. Good news. I had no idea, but we have some special rubber butyl that is called Vicor Ultra, and it's very expensive. It's like 300 bucks a roll. So instead of using this stuff, which is like a asphalt membrane, we're gonna switch over to a butyl membrane, which is great. I'm just happy about that because I don't have to use this stuff. What this stuff is, it's a high-end rubber butyl that I like to use when I'm doing my flat blocks. G-tape's great, but this gives us a little extra protection. So what I'm probably gonna do, I'm probably going to use this as a first layer, and then I'm gonna take G-tape and go over the top of this with that as a secondary layer. I'm just pretty stoked I had this because I thought I was gonna have to blow 300 bucks today on Ultra, and now I have a roll that I used from our last, or not our last project, it was several months ago. It's been just sitting in our trailer for, I don't know, 6 months maybe. I'm able to use it as a base layer to cover up the bladder, because every time you put a screw or a fastener through the bladder, this flat block area takes a little bit more caution than a standard joist will. So we have protection, we have layers of caulk in between our bladder, but on the flat blocking, we don't have those little extra layers of caulk. So what we're gonna do is add this cushion of rubber butyl on top of the bladder. So every time a screw goes into it, or every time I put a fastener in it, it seals, this rubber butyl will seal the screws so the screws won't leak. And then as water collects, it will disperse throughout the channel of the board instead of trying to drip through or leak. And then once I get this on, I'm probably gonna put a layer of G-tape over that to protect it from UV, because Vicor is not UV stable and G-tape is. So, and I don't mind doing it because it's like a double protective layer, and then I don't have to worry about coming back in the future for a leak. So that's what we're gonna do. So far it's the best way. I've had some of this style of installs done for probably 7 years with this particular Ultra, and they've all done very well. So I know it's performing well, and you know, I'm just trying to keep my game on. Alright, so we've gone as far as we possibly can with our bladder system. Everything's protected with tape. It's all installed. There's 2 sections of our bladder on this deck that we have not installed yet. Right here, and on the other side as well. And that's because we're gonna start laying decking right there. And then we're going to work our deck back towards these areas, and I want my decking to finish on a full width piece on the outside edge of the deck. And to be able to do that, I could guess and maybe be close. What we're gonna do is we're gonna wait until we get the deck boards almost to where that end of that bladder is. And then we'll kind of chalk some lines, get some straight edge going, and we'll figure out where all those joists need to be cut. Then we'll put up our rim joist. Then we'll put in all the returns on the bladder, all of our blocking for the railing, and then we'll continue laying the deck. That's why those two ends are not finished yet, because I want all my boards to end on a full piece. If I didn't care, I could have done it, but also they may not be square. So when I can guarantee you that, because I know this side of the house over here is not square to this side of the house over here. I had to pick one of the two evils. So what I decided was I was gonna take a line, the longest line on the house is on this far side. There's staircase over here and so on and so forth. So we're gonna go from that point, and we took a straight line, we squared up the house, took a straight line, and then we just pulled our dimensions all off of this one line going all the way back. So things aren't 100% square here and there, but once the deck's laid and everything's installed, you're really not gonna see a difference. We're probably not gonna get to laying any decking today. We still have to prep the outside of our rims. So all these rim joists have bladder going over them, but we still need to protect them so that when we put up our fascia boards, it has something that's protecting it there. So that's what's kind of next right now on our agenda. We're going to start taping all that up. I have a temporary gutter I'm going to install over here so it doesn't splatter on our tools until our gutter people get to show up and get that installed. And just some overall basic prepping, a little bit more prep work to do. We have some prep work to do on the house as well so that we can have everything ready. So that it's frustrating when you're laying decking and you get in deck laying mode, then you have to pause and stop and go, oh, we got to tape this, we're going to install this. So we're trying to think about all those things that we need to do so that we can, when we get to installing our decking, we can just rock and roll. So that's where we're at, and preparation is key. You guys saw how long it took us to prep the side of the house before we could actually start installing anything. So for what it's worth, that's probably what the rest of our day here will be, and then we'll catch you up next time on when we start installing some decking.
We're cutting the deck boards. We're getting them all prepped beforehand so we can just lift them all at once and then get them laid out on the deck. So on Monday morning we could just start doing our deck.
Hey guys, Dr. Decks here. Today is a good day because we are laying deck boards. And it's part of the company name, Dr. Decks. It's what we do. So we're getting ready to install a bunch of TimberTech AZEK. The color is called English Walnut. All right, let's get going. All right, so the way we're installing these deck boards today, these are TimberTech AZEK decking, and we are using this nail gun called Fasten Master 5-shot Fusion Lock is what they call it. And it has a rack of scrails, which holds about 300 screw nails. So that sits in the magazine like that. And then we have these clips that feed into the back of the gun, like so, all right? And those load accordingly. I don't want to load this yet because I still have some scrails in the gun. And then once you have it loaded, you can go ahead and start installing your clips. All right, so we have the first main field of decking laid up to the first part of the house. And we're gonna take some measurements now to cut in these little 45 areas to kind of bring us around the corner. And then we'll be able to cut some lines and then get this first section of the deck laid and fastened and locked down. And then we're gonna move on to this section next over here. It takes a different size bit than...
Whoops.
Oh, sorry.
I'm back in the dungeon now, and so we're laying decking up to here, and because of there's a door on this side, there's a door on the other side of the house, and the way the siding goes out, we won't really have a lot of space to screw down to. So what I'm doing is putting this extra piece of 2x6 here.
1 hour later.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, so I put this 2x6, sistered it up to our joist here, and that way I'm pushed out another 4 inches. So that way we'll have lots of room to put our fasteners into, and it'll give our boards extra support. So I'm doing that on this side, doing it on the other side, and then we're gonna go back up top, and then after I install these, we're gonna tape up the siding, and then put some G-tape, kind of L-flashed it on the bottom, so that way there's no way water can get in between these two guys.
What's up?
Nothing much, just cutting some angle cuts for the deck up there. We're starting to butt around the house right there, and you can see as the house is starting to shape out on a 45-degree angle as the windows, getting all those cuts, and they're dropping down in increments of 5 inches. We're running wild right now, so after we cut all these, and we're going to butt them all up and cut them down with the track saw. So right now we're just worried about the 45-degree cuts. We got about 9 more cuts, and then we'll go up there and start laying them.
All right, so the deck's laid. We've snapped a line. We want to cut this line so we can fasten down all of these deck boards. I have some thin pieces of masonite underneath this line so that when I cut, you can kind of see one right here, I'm not cutting through my bladder, but I'm cutting into the masonite so I can get a nice clean cut on my decking, but I'm not cutting through to the bladder. Then we'll remove the pieces of masonite, and then we'll Cortex this line of screws with these gaps that are all, that's why all these gapper tools are still in the deck, because I've already set the width and everything's good to go. I just need to get this end of the deck cut and pinned down, and then we're good to go for our next steps. So now all I have to do is set the depth on my track saw, and then I'll be able to make this cut. There you go, nice clean cut. So now all I have to do is pull these pieces out and then fasten this down, and then this side's locked. Hey guys, Dr. Decks here. Today we are laying deck boards. We're doing it over our waterproof bladder, and we're using a Fascia Master Pro 5-shot clip gun. It's all about just getting as much decking laid today as we possibly can. We're in a transition mode right now. So we've pretty much laid this main deck. I'm getting into cutting a piece of material for the decking that will be at the end of the board, or it will be at the end of the deck at the house, and then it will wrap around the corner. So Nazi is putting in some flashing right now and getting ready to continue running those short boards after I get this board notched and installed. So follow along and see how we do today.
I'm putting in some flashing here because the rest of our deck, we used our waterproof bladder system. And so with that, we had extra, probably like a foot. So when I took that extra foot of bladder, I just tucked it in underneath the siding over there. But with this side, the homeowner didn't want it bladdered. So we figured that we'd do our due diligence by G-taping on the top, G-taping on the side of the house, and then also going above and beyond and putting some L-flash in here. And then on top of the L-flashing, I'm going to put some G-tape so that every time we screw in here, the G-tape will kind of wrap around our screws and make it even more waterproof. So water's obviously going to get in here, but it will not get in here.
What are you up to?
Just plugging holes with the Cortex. So the ones that we couldn't do the 5-shot clips, but we had to use the Cortex. And now we're just plugging the holes with the let's see if I have any more. They match the color, and then the grooves you just match it. The boards run this way, you want to run them this way. And then we just use a mallet, tap them down, good to go.
All right, so a couple challenges we've had with this house in particular. The outside of this wall over here is what I pulled the outside of the deck from, and I had to commit to that line. So that wall and this wall are 1 inch out of parallel, which made it a real challenge. So what we did is we split the difference. We took this board here, that outside board, and we brought it in 1/2 inch. And so we're still 1/2 inch out. And I actually had to cut this board over here on a pie. The last board that goes into the house, I had to cut it 1/2 inch out of parallel to fit, which is fine. The siding would have hit it, but I wanted to make sure that it hit everything. So that's good now. What's ironic is even though everything's out of parallel and a little out of square, when I took a measurement, we're within 1/16 of the wall back here. And we're gonna finish on a full board, which is pretty rare as well. We might have a 1/4 inch gap, maybe a 1/2 inch gap at the end. So for what it's worth, I'm glad we ran the decking this way. I'm glad that we're installing it the way we are. It makes the most sense because I have a full board on the very outside of the deck, and then I have a full board on the very outside of this section of the deck, and I'll have a full board on the other side on the outside of the deck as well. Now, most people won't pick up on that. They won't understand it. They say, oh, this deck looks really nice. It's gonna be hidden by railing. You're never gonna see it. But a true craftsman or real carpenters, deck builders, if they ever see this deck, they'll be like, dang, how did they do that? Because it's pre-planning and it's adapting during your build to get those boards to finish on a full piece of material. It's something that I always strive for. Now, obviously, when you commit to the outside of a deck, you're not gonna be able to finish on a full board always over here. Like you see right here. The cool part about this board though is it notches around the corner of the house and it's still a full piece of material right here. So even though I've got a little wedge, it flourishes into a full width board and then it continues all the way to the end of the house. So instead of flipping the decking direction, we decided to run all the decking the same direction around the house, and it's just gonna be for a nice complete look. And then we're gonna finish on a full piece of material too, which is a little bit of a head scratcher. If you've ever tried to do this, if you've ever tried to figure that out, it can be time consuming and frustrating. So I'm pretty happy with the way this thing's turned out, especially for as many out of parallel walls that we have. I think we're doing rather well.
Are you good?
Yep. Ooh, wow, I crashed the push stick. Oh.
No, that was the push stick.
Not better than my fingers.
What did you almost annihilate your hands for?
Man, I was making this little strip of material to hold this corner piece on right here. And I try to make things as cool as I possibly can. I can only put one fastener in here. So I'm gonna glue this strip to this board and to this board, put one screw in it, and then I'll be able to cut this line. But I couldn't do any of that until I get this part made. So I was down there making this really thin piece. I was using a push stick, and I was using an auxiliary piece of lumber, pushing on it like this, and the board still chattered, and it broke the push stick in my hand because I was actually cutting through the push stick. I knew I was doing that though. They're designed for that. And when it caught, it broke in half, and I just said, "Ooh," as a reaction. and it is what it is. I was being safe. I didn't cut my fingers. Everything's cool. Nothing hurts. It's just always use a push stick. I actually almost cut my thumb off completely by not using one. And there's a scar to prove it. So I always use a push stick now. So I'll bring another one tomorrow because we're just going to be using temporary pieces of material until we get a new push stick on site. Pretty good connection. I just glued this and I put one screw in it, and normally when you're trying to put a piece of like a small pie piece and you know you're going to be cutting it, that's pretty good, man. I'm confident that that will never come apart in the future, and it looks decent because it has a nice, I put the grain up, I made this part and glued it together, and it's about the same gap as these. Everything's pretty revealed nice. So when you look down on it, you might see this little area, but it matches the rest of the color of the deck. So what I'm doing right now is I'm laying out all of the fascia boards. I'm cutting them to length, trying to, and laying out all the fascia for the guys so they don't have to keep jumping up and down off the scaffolding as much. So what I'm doing right now is I'm pre-drilling. We have color matched screws, or a screw that we found that we like the color of, that looks pretty good on this board, but they stick through too long. They're a 2.5 inch screw, so they poke through the inside of the framing, the outside rim boards. So we cut all the screws down to 2 inches, or about 1.5 inches, or something like that, so they don't poke through the backside of the framing. And then that way we don't have to go back and grind them all off, because it's hard to get the grinder in certain spots, and when you look up you see all these screws poking through. So we thought we'd cut them down, but because we did that, we have to pre-drill the holes a certain way so that when this screw tightens up, because it'll stay like this unless we cut this relief cut in it, then it'll go down flush. So that's what I'm doing, is trying to make it easier for these guys to be able to lay out their, or to install the boards, and I'm trying to get the layouts done amongst the chipmunks. Did we just blow power? So I had went to put this up on the scaffolding and I dropped it and it dinged up this end, but we used some heat and we're able to mold it back into place so I don't have to replace this board, because each one of these fascia boards is about $100 a piece. So it's a $50 piece of material really. So for me to have to replace it just because of one ding, $50, I'm pretty happy that turned out the way it did. The way we wrap our decks is a little bit different than a lot of people. A lot of guys will just take the deck boards and run them past the deck and then butt their fascia below it and call it good. We like to do a double step fascia. It adds a really nice detail to the look of the deck. We like to bring all of our fascia boards flush with our deck boards, and then we put a piece of thinner fascia below that. So we Cortex the upper section, because it's actually a solid deck board, not grooved, for the top section. And then the lower section of the fascia, which is what I call the double step, is out of a piece of 1x12 that comes up to 12 feet long, or it comes in one length, is 12 feet. And so we kind of stagger it so it has a staggered look. And it's really, we're attaching to the same depth, but we have a thicker piece on top and then a thinner piece below, so it kind of sticks out a little bit and it adds a nice detail to the deck. And I don't like running 12-inch wide fascia boards solely without, because the miters never stay together. You can get some oil canning in it and that kind of thing. I've already had some people comment on the screws we're using. These are TimberTech branded top lock screws. They are recommended for doing what we're doing. We're putting them every 12 inches. So if the fascia has an issue, that's why another reason why I don't use full width fascia, because a half a piece of fascia isn't gonna have the tendency to do this as much as a big piece will. So that's where we're at, and we're just starting to work our way around the deck right now. Hey guys, Dr. Dex here. Today we're talking about staircases. We have to frame up a staircase for our current deck build. We're also finishing up the siding. We're locking things down, caulking things up, and we're prepping our base for our staircase. We're widening this one out from the one that was originally here. So I got Austin up here framing away on a little concrete slab frame. All right, check this out.
What's up, man? Good morning.
Morning.
We're just getting this concrete slab staked out, so we're building the steps right here, and then you got to have a certain amount of landing, so you got to do a little add-on to this concrete pad. So I'm building the form right now for it with scrap 2x6s. Always save lumber when you can, especially with COVID.
So I like to cut multiple jacks at the same time. So what I'm doing is I'm stacking my stair set right now to be able to cut everything at once. I have a special saw. It's called a Sasquatch by Skill Saw, and it allows me to cut multiple jacks at the same time. So what I have to do is I have to stack all the jacks, and then I have to square them up. So if you come around here, you can see I wanna flatten out the bottom of my stairs. The tops don't matter. I'm gonna cut all those, but the bottoms do matter because that's how it's gonna get framed. And you can see I've got like my top two boards are sticking out a little too far. This bottom board's sticking out a little too far. So I'm gonna kind of bang on them until my square tells me that everything looks pretty good. And we're almost there. There we go. Now we've got a pretty flat top. Now that this side is pretty straight and square, I'm gonna run a clamp on it. to hold it in place. Now I'm gonna do the same thing down at the base of my stairs. You can see they're not completely flat. There's some gaps right here, okay? So again, using a square so I can make sure everything is tight and straight, I'm gonna move things around a little bit to get everything to comply. All right, that looks pretty good. Now I'll clamp this side as well. I just realized something. I really only need 6 jacks to build this, but I suppose we can just leave 7 in there and make it a little bit sturdier. What do you say? Maybe? Okay. Well, since it's already stacked and graded, in case I have one that's a failure, or if one's bad or cracked or something, then I can pull that jack out and still have 6. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut all 7. All right, so now we have our stair stringers. I call them jacks, but got so much pushback on that term that everybody on the East Coast calls these stair stringers. I call them stair jacks. Sorry, is what it is. But now I've got them rough cut. I'm gonna go back through with Sasquatch and clean any little rough edges I don't like up, and then I'm gonna hit them with a belt sander, and then I'll paint them, and then we'll be ready to go to the next step. Oh man.
Sounds sick.
R.I.P. blower. What a bummer.
Here's a question for everyone at home. What is he using to paint on this wood?
You've heard it before.
Many times. Leave your answer in the comments below. Bonus question, what kind of wood is this? Leave your answers in the comments below.
Okay, so now I have my stair jacks cut, sanded, and I've applied a very heavy layer of Q-Tech Extreme.
There's your answer, by the way.
There's your answer, Q-Tech Extreme. Now I'm letting that soak in a little bit, and then we'll transfer these jacks, oh, excuse me, stringers, up to the staircase area. Austin's pouring the concrete right now. So once that's done, then we're gonna cut a bunch of framing up, and we're gonna add a solid member to the front of each stair rise, okay? Like so. So this staircase becomes really bulletproof. We're not gonna have to have any mid-span blocking or mid-span posts in this staircase. For one, it's only 7 rises. Because we added an extra stringer, and because we're gonna put a 2x8 in front of every stringer attachment, then this will make this staircase really solid. It'll be rock, I mean solid. So you'll see as we go along how that becomes built, and we'll probably pre-assemble most of that stuff. I'm not sure. I'll probably get a set of sawhorses up there and get all our materials up there, and then we'll figure it out from there. We may set up some plywood on top of the sawhorses. Sometimes that's a real easy way to be able to build your stairs instead of trying to struggle with trying to fit a 5-foot wide staircase on a 3-foot wide set of sawhorses. So that's our next step. I think that's what we're gonna do next, and follow along and see how we do.
So I got just finished putting all the siding back onto the house. These 2 pieces were totally off. So what I'm doing now is putting a bead of quad clear on this, and it's silicone clear caulking to keep the water out. And even though I ran our bladder like probably a good foot up this, we decided better safe than sorry, put some quad in here as well, so that way there's absolutely no way water's gonna get down here and in here. The only time it could possibly be in danger is if someone pressure washed like right against the house, but usually we tell the homeowner not to do that. But otherwise, it's under the eave, should be good. We shall see.
A bit more right there. And then,
Somewhere right
yep.
here.
Hey guys, Dr. Dex here. Today we are finishing up our staircase over here, and we're starting to install our Regal Ideas railing system. We have all of the posts installed. We're getting all the side rails ready to go. We're putting a Wild hog wire mesh as the infill. Let's go check this out.
So I'm cutting these. They call them hog tracks. They're really dedicated to this hog theme here. So we got the hog rail over there. I cut out all our Regal rail. So we got the bottom rail there, and then we can't put the top rail in until we put our hog rail in first. So what these guys are going to do is they're going to sit on the side of our posts, and then the hog rail, hog wire is going to go right into there, so that way you don't see any end cuts. So I'm cutting a bunch of these guys out with holes because I got to drill these in, and then I'm leaving some without holes because those are going to be exposed on our corners, and we don't want holes on our corners. So putting these in, cutting out 28 of these and 8 of the other ones. So a lot of aluminum cutting today. So I have the earplugs in, can't hear anything, but I'm probably talking louder, so that's always nice, you know. You gain something.
There's a, right here, there's a lip, so I don't know if we can pry this out some more from underneath maybe or something.
Okay.
Just we got to keep it out, because even on the far end over there, it's barely gonna cover right now. So how much shim do we need? That's pretty good. I am making a trim piece for the other side of the staircase because yesterday I was having a hard time processing how I was going to build it, and we kind of got it figured out now, and I like the way it's looking. So now I have these two parts. I have some 2P10 super glue. It's made for PVCs. It stands for 2 parts 10 seconds. That's what 2P10 stands for. 2 parts, which I have right here, 1, 2. And when I glue this together and then hold this PVC joint in 10 seconds, it will be bonded. So that's what I'm going to do right now. It's made by a company called Fascia. Not sponsored yet. They don't work with influencers is what they told me. And I'm just going to try to put a nice even light coat, but enough to where it's going to bond these two pieces of PVC together. There's also AZEK glue, and I think we have some of that up in the trailer, but this stuff's pretty quick. All right, so there you go. You can see the sheen on that. You got to be quick and you got to be accurate when you put this seam together because it does not take long for it to bond. I usually give it the benefit of the doubt and go more than 10 seconds though, maybe 30 seconds to a minute. And you can see there's a little bit of squeeze out on this side. This is going to be the outside of the stair. And there's still, if I wiggle this, I can still see the glue moving around. So I'm just gonna sit here for a few more seconds and hang on to it. Just to really make sure it's bonded. $2P10. Oh, you gotta be careful when you do these, because you got a little bit of slop. But you could drop it all the way to there if you wanted to. And you'd still be okay.
Okay.
So you don't have to be super tight. If you make them super tight, I'm concerned about getting these in. All right, so we have all of our Regal Ideas rail posts installed. We have all our top and bottom rails cut. The bottom rails are installed in the base. They're not screwed in yet. They're just sitting in there. And now Nazi is going to take a U-channel that's made for the Wild Hog wire, and we're gonna mount those to the sides of all the posts. So that's what he's up to. We just figured out our fascia detail for the bottom of our staircase. That took a minute, but it's looking really good now. So now we can finish installing all of our deck boards on our staircase and then finish up our trim and then get the kickers in, and that'll be pretty much complete. And then I can start figuring out the rail posts for the stairs as well. But we might jump onto cutting up some of these hog wire panels instead and trying to get some of those fit today. So I can hopefully give you the overall look of how the rail's gonna be. Heavier than I thought. So these are our Wild Hog wire panel sections. Each one we have to cut down to the proper height to fit the Regal Ideas rail system, and then we have to cut them all the width. Once we do that, we'll put on these little protective pieces. They call them hog tusks. They're just little caps that go on the ends of all the cut ends so that there's no rust. And one thing about when you're doing an aluminum rail system with steel, you don't want the steel touching the aluminum, and you don't want it to rub, and you don't want vibration sound to happen. And when you're walking on a deck, you can get deflection. And you can get sounds like that, but when it's metal to metal, it's even worse. So we use a lot of these to make sure we don't get a lot of that. Pretty strong. All right, so right now we have finished installing most of our U-channels, and these are going on the sides of the posts, like right here, for the hog wire to rest in, okay? But we had a little complication where we have these special 22.5 or 45 degree posts. They're sitting at a 22.5 degree angle from each side. So we couldn't just take these and mount them to the sides of the post, because it would shoot the hog wire a different way. They really needed to be on this angle here. So what we're doing is we're going to, once the top caps are in, like so, then these will be installed on these angled sections so that the hog wire has a place to be inside of this track and be trimmed out and look really nice. So most of the posts are, the hog wire is right up against it, but on these corner posts where the angles are, there's gonna be a gap right here, and then the hog wire is gonna sit inside of this track. And then this track will get screwed to the top rail and to the bottom rail, and it'll still be really nice and solid. Whew, it's getting cold out. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hey, check this out. Ooh.
You can't see.
You can't see the... Oh, there we go. It lights up green.
Great.
Pretty cool. Whoop-de-doo. Hey guys, Dr. Dex here. So it's fall and it's raining. So something we're still acclimating to. It's kind of cold too. My toes are a little numb and it's wet. So you know those 30-degree days when it's raining, it's not snowing. It's not cold enough to snow, but you know, it's just cold enough to freeze you. That's where we're at today. Today, we are finishing up our Regal Ideas and Wild Hog rail system, which most of the main deck is finished. We're just putting on some final touches on that. And then we have to get into the staircase rail, which is the most complicated and time-consuming part of the railing, but I still think we'll probably get her buttoned up today. So follow along and see what you learned today. And don't forget to comment below and click that like button. All right, let's check this out.
Dirt Man's in effect today. Just putting some dirt in here because it's a tripping hazard. So I think we'll put some dirt there. Maybe we'll put some pavers to make it 3 feet out. But yeah, just buttoning it up here. Look at this. What the heck? This is yeah, that's Washington in a nutshell. Just green and slimy and wet in the fall. Even a little bit of moss for decoration. But we didn't hurt any animals on this site, so I'll put them somewhere that he'll enjoy.
So we are making all of our hinged points for our staircase with our Regal Ideas. They have called a universal angle bracket, and it can either be used like this for a staircase, or it can be used like this for a top rail on a deck for any angle that you need. But now we need to make a staircase angle with them. We have some upstairs that are already installed, but these are going to be put on the post and go about a 32-degree angle down. So instead of using the fasteners that they provide, which are fine, I like to go a little bit above and beyond and use some stainless steel ones that we have that are pretty nice. And it's just basically a lock nut and a stainless steel screw. And those will drop through like so. Whoops. And they'll hold the hinges together real nice. So that's what we're doing right now, is just kind of prepping all that stuff and getting it ready for mounting. So what I kind of have to do, that's crazy, but that's cool that it does that. That's amazing. I bet you guys didn't know something, that a Stabila R-beam fits inside of a Regal Ideas universal angle bracket. So this is kind of helpful when you're trying to figure out staircase angles and you're not sure what to put the universal angle bracket to start.
33.5 plus.
We're just trying to get our top rail, our grabbable handrail, to code. When you're building stairs, you have to have a grabbable handrail along one side of the stairs that's 34 to 38 inches above the tread nosings, that is grabbable by hand with no interruptions through the middle of the run. So it has to be a complete run from the top of the stair to the bottom of the stair. There cannot be any posts protruding through the top of it. So we're running a continuous top cap from point A to point B. We had to heighten one of our posts, so Nas is doing that right now. I'm gonna remount that, get the other bracket installed, and then we should be good to go after that. Okay, I got this. Now, you take that level, put it, yep, and level it up, and then give me that measurement.
Okay. Like that?
Okay, I don't know if I can get that.
Yeah, because I can't.
Okay. So there's our grabbable handrail, continuous, okay? As we are, the tracks we're gonna put on the sides of it. So what I was gonna do is have you cut this one down and then just put the cap back on it. right, so now I'm ready to make a template for the hog wire, and then we will get that installed, and then we'll be done. Notice how the line of the wire matches up with the right here. So this and this, that's what's really hard to do. I'm a little high, but not too bad. Safe. All right, guys, your prescription has been filled. We are finished with this deck except for a couple small trim pieces, which we're going to come back in on Monday. We have called for a final inspection. I expect to pass with flying colors, but we're not leaving with our tools until we have that final sign off. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed following along with us and learning a little bit about how we build decks. If you do and you like what you saw, please click that subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be notified when we're putting out new content. Don't forget to share our videos with your friends and your family, and comment below, leave me a message, let me know what you're thinking, and don't forget to like our videos as well. This one's a wrap. Thanks so much, guys. Over and out.